In this video, you will see for yourself Alyssa Milano's humiliating hypocrisy when it comes to applying to Joe Biden the same MeToo standards that Milano spewed against Judge Brett Kavanaugh. You're not going to believe the blatant contradiction that's at the heart of Milano's woke activism, but that's precisely what we're going to take a look at. We're going to see Alyssa Milano's hypocrisy firsthand, and we're going to explore precisely why this hypocritical contradiction lies at the very heart of MeToo wokeness. You're going to love it. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Wonderful to be with you as always. Before we begin, I've got a little gift for all of you. Make sure to download your free ebook, your fake news antidote, which you can get by clicking on the link below. You're going to love the myriad of resources listed out in hyperlinks so you never have to deal with the mainstream Marxist media ever again. We've had, well over 10,000 downloaded absolutely free, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback on it. So make sure to click on that link down below and get yours free today. And before we get into the total and complete hypocrisy of Alyssa Milano, make sure to head over to my special website for My Patriot Food Supply. With all the quarantines being enforced already, with all the pictures of the empty shelves that we're seeing as a result of this coronavirus that we're personally experiencing when we go to the store, it's such a relief to know that we have such good friends over at My Patriot Food Supply. Gang, they're simply the best, and there's frankly never been a better time to stock up on an emergency food supply, and no one makes that more ridiculously easy and affordable as My Patriot Supply. Their food kits last up to 25 years in storage, and they include breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. And if you act now, you'll actually save 40% on a 2-week emergency food kit when you go to my special website by clicking on the link below. Now, if you're still looking to stock up on food and supplies in the midst of this pandemic, then take action today by clicking on the link below. Save 40% off with your 2-week emergency food kit today. I've got mine. Make sure that you get yours, and let's take care of each other throughout this entire process. All right? All right, let's dive right in here. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Alyssa Milano. I mean, calling her an actress at this point is almost silly. She's just become a shill for the social justice warrior revolution, a woke princess. And as such, Milano has prided herself as the queen of the MeToo movement, the de facto leader of the resistance against the ongoing centuries-long patriarchal war on women. And she really, in many ways, came to prominence during the whole Judge Brett Kavanaugh fiasco surrounding his confirmation process to the Supreme Court. Now, if you recall, a woman by the name of Christine Blasey Ford came out and accused Brett Kavanaugh of attempted rape back when they were in high school, I believe back in 1982. She offered no corroborating evidence, and in fact, her entire testimony crashed and burned as a result of a number of discrediting factors, which we don't need to rehash here. But given the flimsiness of her case, many of her advocates, people who advocated for her, they were confronted with the notion that they may have been in the process, however inadvertently, or but like giving the benefit of the doubt here, however inadvertently, Ford's defenders may have been in the process of actually destroying an innocent man. And that's what President Trump was noting at the time, that given the flimsiness of her case, Ford's case, it appeared that the MeToo movement was in fact in the process of destroying the life and career of a completely innocent person, in this case, Judge Brett Kavanaugh. And among the champions and defenders of Christine Ford, who was asked to respond to President Trump's concerns, was none other than Alyssa Milano. And here was her response to that.
And I think we are in a time right now that is very gray, right? This is the Me Too generation. What is happening right now is we are defining boundaries that have never been defined before. So whereas Trump might say that white men have it very difficult right now, I'm saying that women, young people, have had it difficult for generations and generations and generations, and we will not be silenced any longer. And if that means that men have a hard time right now, then I'm sorry. This is the way the pendulum has to shift for us to have equality and security in our country and within our societal views of what it means to be a woman. We are considered less than, and we cannot stand for it anymore.
Now, you heard that for yourself, right? Alyssa Milano was asked to respond to President Trump's concerns that young men, not white men, Milano misquoted him, young men, he said, are having a very hard time right now with all this potential of being unfairly accused of sexual misconduct. And in her response, you heard, what did she say? She actually came out and said that it frankly doesn't matter if an innocent man is publicly destroyed and punished for a crime against women he actually did not commit. And that's because it's the inevitable, shall we say, collateral damage of the reparations necessary for all the harm done to women over the years. I mean, I want you to get that. This is all the necessary consequence of the equalizing process that we're going through right now. And frankly, when all's said and done, it doesn't matter if an innocent man is destroyed, because it's all part of making up for the fact that innocent women have been destroyed throughout history as well. And if you think white men, she should have said young men, if you think white men have it hard now, what about the centuries of oppression that women have had to endure? So deal with it. Now, you heard that with your own ears, right? Well, now her own candidate, the very candidate that she supports for president 2020, has been MeToo'd. Now Biden is being accused of sexual assault. The woman, Tara Reid, has accused Biden of inappropriate behavior when she worked in a Senate office back in 1993, saying that Biden touched her inappropriately when she was in her mid-20s. She gave her full story to Rolling Stone's Katie Halper in a podcast interview where she reportedly describes the graphic incident that allegedly involved Biden pinning her against the wall in his office, inappropriately touching her. And then apparently after he was finished doing his thing, he pointed to her and allegedly said, "You're nothing to me." And when she later revealed what Biden did to her to others, this woman, Tara Reid, claims that she was tarred and feathered as a Russian agent who was doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin. Now, obviously, left-wing woke Democrats like Alyssa Milano are in a bit of a pickle here, because according to them, when you doubt a female accuser, that's a form of overt sexism. I mean, after all, even if the man turns out to be innocent, this is all part of the process of equalization between men and women. If there's some collateral damage here in this process of rectifying centuries of abusive oppression against women, well, then so be it, right? Well, let's just say that's not how Alyssa Milano is responding to these allegations against her candidate of choice.
So I endorsed Joe Biden.
Okay, good.
And there have been accusations against Joe about a sexual assault.
Right, and people were
And
saying, how
so-
can you do that? Because
So
you're...
I have not publicly said anything about this. If you remember, it kind of took me a long time to publicly say anything about Harvey as well,
Okay.
because I believe that even though we should believe women, and that is an important thing, and what that statement really means is, like, you know, for so long the go-to has been not to believe them. So really we have to sort of societally change that mindset to believing women, but that does not mean at the expense of not, giving men their due process and investigating
that.
situations.
I like that.
And giving, it's got to be fair in both directions.
Now, what do we say in response to such a blatant contradiction? I mean, the blatant hypocrisy here is beyond humiliating. And everyone, except obviously for the fellow interviewing her, everyone knows it. Here's what's really going on. It's actually very, very simple. Cultural Marxism, the pseudo-philosophy of the politically correct woke left, is a worldview centered on a cult of the aggrieved. The left was highly successful in creating a world where we had terms to describe all kinds of supposed crimes against sexual and racial and physical minorities, such as misogyny, racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, and the like. But nothing, absolutely nothing, no singular term whatsoever for crimes committed against, white, male, Christian conservatives. By definition of the oppressor framework of cultural Marxism, there is no crime that can be committed specifically against the oppressive majority of the white male Christian conservative. That's the world of Alyssa Milano. And as long as you are politically on the side of the oppressed, which means as long as you're a Democrat, because the Democratic Party has become the official party of grievance politics and cultural Marxism, as long as you're on Alyssa Milano's side, you get a pass. Because by definition, you're not an oppressor. You're on the side of the oppressed. And this is why Alyssa Milano is such a hypocrite. And this is why she hates President Trump so much. Do you want to know the origin of Trump derangement syndrome? Here it is in a nutshell. Here's what Trump's really guilty of in the eyes of these left-wing activists. Trump committed an unpardonable sin. He successfully directed the very same mockery, vilification, and disdain towards the left that the left has spewed towards the political and cultural right for decades, all in the name of this cultural Marxist hypocrisy. Trump has taken the very mockery and vilification and repudiation that the left has spewed against the right for decades, and he's successfully thrown it right back into their faces. He's called out their rank hypocrisy, and he's channeled the very disdain that the left has had for others and thrown it right back at them. It's actually in The Art of the Deal, his book, The Art of the Deal, this technique of mirroring your opponent. Trump has said over and over again that he's a counterpuncher. And in his Art of the Deal, Trump lives by the maxim that if your business adversaries, or in this case, your political opponents, if they hit you, then you have to hit them back twice as hard. So that's what liberal leftists simply can't stand. They always thought they had the moral high ground here, the politically correct moral high ground, where they and they alone had the right to foment resentment and anger against all the racism and sexism and xenophobia and transphobia and homophobia that characterized the Western world before woke liberals came to power. Leftist liberals alone were legitimate practitioners of what amounts to nothing less than a cult of suffering and the incessant practice of cry-bullying. And the great crime that President Trump has committed, the horrible, unpardonable sin that he's engaged in each and every single day for people like Milano, is that he has successfully taken all of that cry-bullying, all of that incessant cult of suffering, that entire oppressor and oppressed framework of cultural Marxism, and he's turned it into a legitimate object of scorn and ridicule, which is the very scorn and ridicule that the woke left, the cultural Marxist left, has been spewing against conservatives for decades now. That's Trump's great sin. He has made the political left the very same object of scorn and ridicule that they believed they had successfully monopolized against the right. And so the simple question here is, how does a cult of suffering, how does a massive movement of cry bullies like Alyssa Milano respond to such a successful co-opting of the very disdain and hatred that they had at one time so successfully monopolized against the political right? How do such resentful, hateful leftists respond? Well, the response, of course, is what we affectionately refer to as Trump derangement syndrome. They literally go unhinged. And as part of that derangement, we're finding that leftists lose perspective. They blatantly lose perspective. They can exonerate one man on the very same grounds that they use to accuse and vilify another. There's not a shred of difference, except, of course, that one is a liberal and the other is a conservative. The days of the left being able to shove their hypocrisy down our throats are over. They have met their match, and now their humiliating hypocrisy is on display for all to see. Now, before you go, you definitely want to check out my latest video on the ultra-liberal Bill Maher actually declaring war on political correctness. He's had enough of it. And he's put the latest in a long line of liberals that are rebelling against the culture of wokeness. You're going to absolutely love it. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.